it's my pleasure to be introducing two very strong and powerful women from the Surrey RCMP, and they are the media spokesperson. And on my very left is Corporal Al Stroko, and you have seen her on our set before. But next to her is another spokesperson, and she is Corporal Joni Sidhu, and she is the new addition as a media spokesperson for the Surrey RCMP. And they are in our studios today. And the reason that we invited both of them to come to speak to you is we want to talk about safety. Do you feel safe? When we look at this pandemic, when you look at Fraser Health, this is where the ground zero is for this pandemic. And if you live in Surrey or if you live in Langley, White Rock, Chilliwack, wherever, it's a Fraser Health. And we need to talk about, do the people that live in this neighborhood feel safe? And how could they enforce the law to make sure that people obey whatever the provincial health officers by law or mandate is to keep people safe in our community. And we all have to take that very seriously because the pandemic is not going anywhere. The last time over the weekend, there were over 2,000 infections. Yesterday was over 716. So the pandemic is not going anywhere. But how do we protect? What can the community do? We all have a role to play maintaining or combating this pandemic. So welcome both of you.
Thanks, Kamilla. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you so much be able to take your time. And I know you are such busy people. And you are both the spokesperson of one of the largest municipality in North America or in Canada that you have to make media appearance, media statement every day, but you took your time to come into our studios and talk to our viewers about, and we need to talk about safety. So I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe you, Tony, I was going to point at you. Do you want to introduce yourself? How long have you been in this position? And talk a little bit about your background so the people that are watching you today can connect with you too.
Certainly. So I'm Corporal Joni Sidhu, and thank you for the very nice introduction, Kamilla. It's very nice to be here. It's nice to meet you and to meet all of your viewers. So I've been a police officer with the RCMP for just about 11 years. In January it'll be 11 years. And I started in patrol like all officers do, and then I did 3 years there, 4 years in serious crime unit in Mission, and then I transferred to the integrated homicide investigation team. I worked there for 2 years, and then I promoted to Surrey RCMP in the legal application support team. And then I worked there for about a year and a half until Eleanor approached me on behalf of the Surrey RCMP senior leadership team asking if I was interested in a temporary secondment in the media relations unit. And I thought, you know what, why not? This was a brand new opportunity for me. I had at that point about 7 years in major crime work, and I thought it would be really good learning experience to try out a different area of policing. So I've been in this position now since April. So yeah, it's been a great experience for me, and I've had many opportunities to learn from Eleanor and the communications team at Surrey RCMP, and it's always fun having opportunities like this, getting to come meet people like you, Kamilla.
Joni is an excellent police officer. She, just based on her experience, I'm sure people can tell that she's got a lot of knowledge about policing. Also very well spoken, so yeah, we definitely snatched her up for our communications team when we had the chance, and you know, I'm really happy that Joni could come meet you as well today, Kamilla.
That's wonderful, and I have seen her on different stations and all that, and maybe I said to myself, that is one woman I want to bring her on my set here today so that you can connect with the community as well. So now let's talk a little bit about the enforcement part of it, because like I say, we live in Surrey, we work in Surrey, we do our business in Surrey. Surrey is one of the fastest growing municipality, and it's over 750,000, very close to that, the population living here. 10,000 people 1,000 people move here every month, and they want to make Surrey their home. Do you think, and I know you have chosen to live in Surrey to raise your family,
Yes.
and do you feel Surrey is a safe place to raise your children, send your children to school?
Absolutely.
And looking at the bigger picture, is it safe?
Of course, I think Surrey is an exceptional city, but in a lot of ways, we're also a very average city. I think that in terms of safety, we are very average when it comes to safety in the Lower Mainland. In fact, we have a crime trend that's been trending downward for the past 10 years. And really, by comparison to last year, our number of shots fired and homicides and serious crimes have actually decreased. We're on a very good trend this year. And then I just want to say, like with COVID-19, I think this is a concern, obviously, a lot of people, particularly that now we're into this very concerning second wave with these increases that we're seeing daily, and the reports from Dr. Henry and Minister Dix about the coronavirus. It is concerning, but one thing to keep in mind, and I think that it's really important, is that in a town, as you say, where we have well over 500,000 people living here of diverse backgrounds, many people, especially young families, overall, what we're seeing as a police agency is a very high percentage of compliance with public health orders. And the reality is that although we are seeing a very concerning trend in our community of people who are contracting COVID-19, by and large, our community is full of people who are doing the right thing and being compliant with public health orders. So I do feel very safe. Like all people, I'm concerned. We are wearing masks because we are concerned with keeping other people safe and doing our best to stop the spread of COVID-19. But I think that our community is doing well, and I think that it's evidenced by the fact that we do have so much compliance here that people are taking it seriously.
So, Joni, I was going to ask you that the majority of the people, they say, that are infected with this virus are between 20 to 40, 45, 42. So they falls in a different category, like young people who feel that this virus is not, they can get the virus, but they will not end up in the hospital. Somehow they feel safe. But are this youth or this group or this age group are getting the message how dangerous this virus is? Yes, they might not attack them personally because they have very good immune system, but they are also carrying this virus and taking it home to their elderly parents or grandparents. And those are the ones that may not be able to survive because if they have any underlying health conditions.
Certainly, so the way that you have described the virus and how it works is something that, it's information that public health has given us, and that's how they're seeing that this virus works. And what we have found, much like what Al said, is with the checks that we've done in the community, proactive checks, as well as reactive checks. So that's responding to calls from the public when members of the public call in about individuals and their concerns about people not complying with the orders. The majority of those situations, we have found that people are complying. However, that being said, it's clear from the numbers that have been increasing that there is a small group of people that simply are not getting the message. And with those individuals, those are the ones that we are trying to target now with our messaging, our communication. We want to try to educate those people so that they are aware of what the harms are, that the fact that this virus does exist, it's not going anywhere, and everyone has a responsibility. They have to do their part in order to slow and stop the spread of COVID-19. And it's gotten to the point where if those people just continue to demonstrate that they are not able to follow the rules and they are going to continue not to comply, then in many cases we have issued violation tickets.
I think it's important to clarify for your viewers that Surrey actually has what's called the Surrey COVID-19 Compliance and Enforcement Team, which is a combination of bylaw officers and Surrey RCMP officers, and their job and their primary focus is dealing with issues that surround COVID-19. And the province has given us special abilities during this pandemic to enforce public health orders, which isn't something that was routinely done by police before. So we are very active in responding to concerns from the public, as well as Joni said, proactive work that we're doing to help ensure people are abiding by public health orders.
So how many calls would you get on average, say about a week? We had Diwali that's gone by. Before that it was Halloween, it's passed by. But people are, so like you say, some of them, most of them are obeying the orders and they want to keep their family safe. But there are a group of people that they don't, they still sneak around or they meet and they want to have fun. Because I also can understand what's going through their head. They have been under lockdown. This is about 9 months we are into this pandemic. I can understand that. But at the same time, are they, and my question to you is, how many offenses or how many fines have you given it to them? And how do you hear about if there is a party going on in my backyard, if there is a wedding happening in there? You do not go to every homes and say, well, how are you guys doing? Maybe somebody has to inform you, right? So how do you deal with that? How do you attend and what do they say? Did they say they don't know anything?
Well,
Or-
there's a lot of questions in there, and we have actually a lot of information that we'll both be able to provide you for
Yeah.
that. So, the good news is, and I think that people will be heartened to know that actually, over the past, since April when we formed our team, proactively, we've done thousands and thousands of proactive checks in the city, meaning that we have gone proactively to businesses to help educate them, to help make sure that people are doing their part under the public health orders. And then, since a lot of the new public health orders came into effect that affected people's visiting within households, we have received a number of calls for service, so people calling in to provide us information because they have concerns that maybe public health orders are being broken. This month, we received 147 calls for service from the public where they thought that someone was contravening the Public Health Act. But what I find kind of positive is that actually only in 34 of those cases did we find some element of breaking the health orders. So that means like the vast majority of those calls, actually, people were doing the right thing. It may have been a misunderstanding that the observation by the person calling, they thought there was too many people, but these are all household members. And then in those cases where there was some contravention of the act, so 34 cases where there was some element of the public health order not being followed, only in 7 of those cases were was there grounds to issue a fine. So in the other cases, it was people potentially not having the education that they needed. They weren't aware that the orders had recently changed, or they were trying to do the right thing, but they just didn't have quite the right information. So in most of the cases, we didn't need to issue a fine because we were able to gain those people's compliance just by speaking with them. In the 7 cases where fines were issued, 2 of those were under the Quarantine Act. So those are people that did international travel and then did not, for whatever reason, there was an element of them not abiding by that Quarantine Act. And then the other 5 of the public health order violations that were $2,300 fines that we issued were actually to businesses. So they really weren't related to people in their homes not participating. So what this tells us, and why it's kind of good news, is that when you think about a city like ours, so big, to have the majority of calls that we're getting or information provided actually points to the fact that most people are trying to do the right thing, which is very heartening, because I think even by the fact that we're getting up to 147 calls this month so far, halfway through the month, really shows that people are trying to help us. They're trying to do their part for the community by providing information that they think will help the city keep safe. And that's a good thing for us.
Yeah, and so, we've seen this pandemic change so much since the beginning, since March. And that's when we had created our COVID-19 compliance and enforcement team with members of Surrey RCMP as well as members of City of Surrey bylaw. And in the beginning, we found, just learning through the information that Public Health provided us, that many of the COVID-19 infections were happening in businesses and event spaces. And that was really easy for us to enforce because we have good partnerships with those businesses. We know exactly where to go to conduct our checks. And so it was very easy for us to go and speak with them and, shut down large gatherings and gain their compliance and, do whatever enforcement measures we needed to in the circumstance. But now that, Public Health is seeing that the data shows infections are increasing as a result of people gathering in homes, we have to kind of change our enforcement strategy and approach. And, you know, it's difficult for us to be at all places at all times. And that's where we are relying on the public to help us by calling in, you know, if they do see their neighbors having parties. So if there's a tent in the yard of a neighbor and they're having a big event, then it's really important for individuals to call us. And when we started reaching out to the public with this message, we noticed such a great reaction. Members, and what we learned from that is that the public wants to help us. The public wants to be part of the solution. And like Al said, we received 147 calls for service. So that's just simply people, members of the public, calling in and helping us and saying, listen, we think that our neighbor or someone we know is having people over more than what they're allowed. That's beyond all the proactive work that we do.
Yes,
So
that really helps us.
It
And
does.
and it's, you know, I think some people are concerned, you know, what, are the police going to come to your house door to door, and are we peeking in windows and all that? And that's simply, it is really simply not the case. And, you know, concerns with privacy and a person's rights within their home haven't changed at all. And those are, you know, the Charter of Rights and people's right to privacy. Those things are issues that we've dealt with as a matter of policing always, whether it's a criminal offense, you know, we're investigating a theft or something like that, or whether it is information from the public regarding public health orders. So, you know, we're very alive to people's sensitivity around that, which is why, you know, we deal with this as a measured approach as well. And, you know, there's a lot of respect and a lot of consideration given when we are especially approaching a person's home to talk to them about public health orders.
So what I'm hearing from you, from both of you, that people are paying attention, neighbors are paying attention, because they want to work as a team. We are all on this all together. It's not like one person has to combat that or curb the virus. So just changing the subject a little bit, because like I said, Diwali is behind us and Halloween is behind us, but Hanukkah is coming, Christmas is coming, New Year's is coming, is about 4 weeks away. And I'm also going to ask you, maybe I'm not able to have you back before Christmas. Well, let's change a little bit and talk about drinking and driving, about the counterattack, because 75 people die each year with drinking and driving. Do you think that people are getting the message that they have to stay safe, and they do? Because the people will still be going to parties, not in the house, because the restaurants are still open. So the workplace parties, or maybe wherever they go and get a few people and weighing all the laws and all that, but they have a one drink, maybe too many, and they think I can drive home. So what is Surrey RCMP doing to stop those people who have one drink, maybe too many?
Well, you know, it's always, these kind of campaigns come up for us annually, and unfortunately they do, because that really means that it's a continuous battle that all of us have to engage in to ensure that we're keeping the roads safe. You know, we don't worry only about the consumption of alcohol, but we also have to consider the consumption of marijuana,
drugs,
but
yeah,
also of illicit drugs, you know, and we have actually seen some collisions related to the consumption of illicit drugs, and that's, you know, a part of the issue of addictions as well that we deal with in the community. So, you know, we do our very best. I think that for the most part, you know, again, people for the most part are doing the right thing. But unfortunately, even a small percentage of people, the actions of those people can have deadly consequences. And one of the things that we recently did media on was that every year Alexa's team, that's you know, a foundation that was set up in memory of Alexa Midler, who was killed by an impaired driver when she was just a toddler. And they recognize the efforts of officers who go above and beyond to remove impaired drivers from the street. This year we had 25 Surrey RCMP officers named to Alexa's team, including our top performer had well over 50 impaired investigations. But you know, it's things like that when I every year remember Alexa Midler, that this is why we're doing these things. This is why we have these annual campaigns, is because, you know, unfortunately, even though the number of people who drive impaired has gone down over the years, the consequences of even these small amount of people continuing to drink and drive or drive impaired by drug can have devastating and tragic consequences. And we really want, especially with a year as challenging as this year, let's do everything that we can to make this year end on a happy note. Don't just yourself not drink and drive, encourage others to also not drive impaired, and let's work together to keep the roadways safe for everybody.
Yeah, that's the biggest message that I think I'd want to provide the public, for anyone who is in a position where they're considering driving after having one too many drinks. We all know that drugs and alcohol alters your judgment, so you shouldn't be, after consuming drugs and alcohol, you should not be putting yourself in a position where you're even thinking about driving. And if you are a sober person who is in the company of somebody who is thinking about driving after they have consumed drugs or alcohol, it's your duty and your responsibility to stop them, because the consequences can be deadly. And our officers are out there every year doing regular campaigns, road checks, and they have a big goal of making sure that they remove impaired drivers from Surrey streets. So we're going to continue to do our part, and we just hope that during this holiday season, especially considering what's going on right now with COVID-19, that people make good judgment calls over the holidays. There's many options and ways to get home in a safe manner by calling a sober friend or taxi or Uber, ride-sharing programs, whatever the case may be. But just don't get behind the wheel if you have consumed any drugs or alcohol.
A very good message. And also, like you say, that people that call you or call RCMP, if they know there is a party going on, whatever, and the people have the responsibility. If you see somebody who's driving or ridiculously driving too fast or crossing, everybody has cell phone, they can take pictures, or they can call a cop. They say, I want you to check this license number.
You know what we always say? This is like one of my favorite things that we say, is that traffic enforcement,
Yes.
so getting impaired drivers off the road, stopping speeders,
Yes.
stopping people who are doing dangerous driving behavior, is one way in which we can immediately make Surrey safer.
Yes.
Because we're removing a dangerous person from the roadway. So you could be an everyday hero
Yes.
by reporting a dangerous driver, by making a good choice not to drive impaired. And literally, it is saving lives. It is having an immediate impact on safety. So yes, we invite anyone to report to us these types of things that will immediately make Surrey safer.
Yes, I think everybody has a role to play to keep our streets safe, keep our children safe, keep everybody safe. And especially this pandemic year, 2020, is going to go in a history book as this,
Right, what a year.
This year didn't even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say the last word is, those people that are watching both of you today, and thank you so much for all this great information, what is one message that you want the people that are watching you today to hit home? Either it's drinking, driving, keeping yourself safe, or maybe with pandemic, and how can you keep your family safe with that, and if you know that you don't want to even get involved with the neighbor and tell them, you know what, you are breaking the law, but let somebody else come and do that for you. So what would be the best thing that you can advise or say something that can stick in the head? And
I do have, I guess, a message to people, especially like in case I don't see you guys before the holidays, and that's that this has been a challenging year.
Yes.
It's hard for everybody. It's hard for police, it's hard for first responders, everyday people working in stores. If you're suffering or having a challenging time, there is help available. We want you to reach out not only to police, but healthcare providers, anyone, reach out if you need help getting through this time. Don't suffer alone. Continue helping by calling us to report information if you have it. The things that you are doing in the community right now are working. The information that you're providing us is helping us. What you're doing is making a difference. Don't feel hopeless. 2020 has been a heck of a year, but if you're struggling, please reach out and get help.
It's a great message, and so I don't repeat everything that you said. My message specifically is to the people that just simply are not getting the message, because despite all of the efforts that people are making, that the people in the community are making, the media, officers, public health, there's still a group of people that are not getting the message. And for them, my hope is that they can consider just how deadly this virus can be. You know, everyone thinks, well, this isn't going to happen to me. I'm safe because, you know, I'm loosely following the rules until it happens. And, you know, Bonnie Henry has gone publicly with stories, like real life stories of individuals who have attended events and dealt with people who were asymptomatic, and next thing you know, they caught the virus and they had a very awful consequence as a result of it. And it's, once it happens, it's not something that you can take back. You know, this is here right now, but it won't be here forever. And you don't want to look back at this time and regret your actions. So it's time now to take responsibility and to take the right actions to do your part.
Thank you to both of you. That's a very strong, very powerful message. Thank you for coming in and educating me, educating our viewers, and what precautions we can all take. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
Thank you to both of you. Now you heard it from both of them and why it is so important to pay attention to Dr. Bonnie Henry and why we should keep small bubbles and avoid going to big gatherings. You can watch Kamilla Singh show on every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. and Mondays at 10 a.m. My parting thought is, what one does is one counts and not what one had the intention of doing. See you all next week. Take a good care of yourself and each other. Stay safe and stay healthy.